Attention please. All creative writing students with a signed permission slip for the Shakespeare Field Show are to report to the bus loop at this time. All others without are in a pickle. What's done is done.
I love people. I don't like humanity.
Yes.
Does that make any sense at all? I just...
Absolutely. That's heavy.
Hello, and welcome to The Art of Teaching. I'm your host, Pete Anderson, and this is the podcast in which I speak with educators about the qualities that make for good teaching.
Makes no difference if sweet or hot. Just give that rhythm everything.
Today's episode is a continuation of my conversation with 29-year veteran English teacher, Jill Vick.
And we're back with Jill Vick. People lover, humanity hater.
Yes. I was just telling Pete, I love... Yes, I love people. I do not like humanity.
How about this? You're out in public, and how often do you run into a former student? Would you say nearly every single time?
Nearly every single time.
Right?
My dad used to joke, he's like, if you go out in public and you run into people you see, it's time to move.
But that, I can't. I like it though.
I do.
I love that.
I do.
And I that's my ego. I think I just like that I know somebody. And
I don't know if it's an ego. I think, you know.
Yeah, I don't think it is for you.
Are you proud of what you do, though?
I was just thinking about this past year. Can we not count this past year? Because there's not a lot of pride.
This year has been hard.
God.
Well, it's been a hard year.
I was even proud of the virtual year.
Yes.
I mean, I
was
put
up
a lot of
on
effort
it.
in.
Yes, I did
not
too.
A lot of takers, but I was proud of how I threw myself into it.
But did you have a couple of kids come up to you this year and say, hey,
oh, yeah.
you were...
Yeah.
So then,
there's always that.
Then you reached them.
Yeah, even this year, even though it was one of my worst years, but still. I like seeing kids that I've met.
love it.
All right, so when you run into that kid, do you ever ask them, hey, what do you remember from my class way back in 8 years ago or 10 years ago?
I have never done that, and I need to do that.
Huh.
I always tend to put it on them like, what are you doing now? Or this sort of thing, and that kind of thing. But I need to do that.
You get the weirdest answer.
You
will not get what you want.
Yes.
I'll tell you that right now.
Yes.
What would you want them to say? What
Morris said.
Well, okay,
I remember
good.
learning about this.
That's
or I
good.
remember learning about this. Something that came up with. But if that ever goes down that, they'll say something and I'm like, what are you talking about? I never did that. Or it never matches up. You're exactly right about that.
The content is not coming out of their mouth.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
It's something else about the vibe of what
and that brings me to my philosophy as a teacher, and I have to. I know I've said this to you before.
Go.
Steve Gallion, who retired after 40 years at Tucker High School, he was the head of the history department. He was a Southern scholar and gentleman, just a fine man. And I remember at his retirement luncheon, when people retired.
I'm so sorry.
They're
Is the
okay.
dog stuck?
No, they're fine. I think he's fine.
Well, the old one gets
I
stuck.
think he's... Oh. I don't know.
Like we all do.
He's okay.
The old one needs a little bit of a nudge.
I think he's okay. I don't want to move my chair, though.
No, I'm going to move the old one.
Okay. Okay.
That's him getting stuck.
I'm sorry, sweetie.
Oh, yeah. Come on, buddy. Up we go. Oh,
I'm sorry.
This is my life right there.
Okay, everybody's okay.
He looks
okay.
drunk, but he's just old.
No, they're both sweet.
Drunk on life.
You are too. Come on over here.
All right. Go lay down. But not
it's actually lie down. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Had to do it since we're here. That's a hard verb for people to get. Lie and lay. It's so lay takes an object, lay the pen down, or go lie down, which means to rest. But the past tense of lie, to lie down yesterday, I lay down, and that's where it gets all messed up. It's a terrible, terrible verb. My mom used to say, chickens lay, people lie.
People lie.
They lay eggs. Right. Anyway.
Which brings me back to why I didn't like this last year, but well, we'll skip that. Okay,
all right,
so
Steve Gallion, 40 years, and he said he was talking about his the teacher that he taught under as a student. And, 40 years later, he said, this has always stuck with me. And she said to me, 10 years from now, people will not remember what you taught them, but they'll remember how you treated them. That's me.
Nice.
That's the number one thing. I remember sometimes being in classes in high school or middle school and feeling unsure, feeling insecure, feeling afraid of the material, and not feeling comfortable in class. And if a student's not comfortable in class, they're going to struggle. They're not going to ask questions, or they're not going to. I want everyone to be able to feel like they can come up at the end of class, even if they can't raise their hand during class, and come ask me about something. Mm-hmm. I want them to feel safe. I want them to feel relaxed. I don't want them to feel like I'm out there to get them. I want them to be able to relax. And if they can relax and kind of like themselves because they're trying to figure out who they are, then maybe the process of learning can begin. Mm. I want them to feel that I care about them, and I do care about them.
Yes, you do.
Find something.
Carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride if I have faith.
Here's something you care about in terms of content, I'm going to guess. Shakespeare.
I love British literature. There's something about, and of course, we need to read a lot of different diverse texts and younger authors, but some of the, I think it goes back to the classes I took in undergraduate school and graduate school. I had some amazing graduate professors. Mm-hmm. Dr. Griffin, who we did a deep dive into Shakespeare and subtext and writing, but I had some really amazing professors at Randolph-Macon who were just knew so much about these different time periods, the Restoration period, John Dryden. Who would read John Dryden on his own? I mean, that kind of thing. And it was fascinating. And so I'm an Anglophile. Mm. But I love American. I mean, I love there's so much out there. It's hard to pick favorites.
So it's not just Shakespeare.
No, it's not just Shakespeare.
Because your car says Shakespeare.
Right.
How long have you had that license plate, by the way?
So probably about 10 years now, 12 years. The first license plate I had was T.S. Eliot. He's my favorite poet.
Is that on your wall?
Yes, I have
That's
that
right.
by the window. Yes, and had that, and then I tried to get Catch 22 on a license plate, but someone in Virginia has that. So I had two Catch 2, and it didn't work. I'm like, this is not.
There's probably a way to get it, but it's complicated and it comes back on itself.
This Shakespeare, this reference actually, yes. This license plate actually, it's not just about Shakespeare. It's from one of my favorite novels, 1984, by George Orwell, and I remember the last time I taught it, and it was at Tucker because I haven't taught 12th grade since I've been at Glen Allen. But there's a scene in there where the character the protagonist, Winston, and of course that's a very dark story. You need to. I mean, if you haven't read that, you need to go back and reread that, Pete. You need to read.
Yeah, it was way too long.
Yeah,
ago.
you need to reread it. You'd appreciate. But you'd appreciate it more now. But I mean, we say that to everybody. That's the hope by teaching some of these things, and that's the great. And I'm getting off track here, but the problem with teaching things that are considered classics or that have withstood the test of time, that are really beautifully written, is the kids can't relate to it.
Right.
The Great Gatsby is a masterpiece. I didn't appreciate it until I read it at the age of 30. And I taught it twice, and I still didn't get it. And then when I got into my 30s, I was like, oh my gosh, I get it. Wow. You can't recapture the past.
And have you had a chance to teach it since?
No, I haven't. And how can you have a 15 or 17-year-old read this about characters who are in their 30s dealing with 30-year-old issues when they're 15? The hope is that some of these kids will pick up these books again later and read them.
Well, knowing now, do you have a way that, okay, I'm going to do it, I'm going to try again, and I have this angle? Or is it like, nah, it's just not going to work on a 15-year-old?
I try to make it relatable. if I can make some sort of, you as a 15-year-old, imagine being this way, but I try to make it relatable through their eyes, because no, you have to have the experience to understand the master of those things. But back to 1984, there's a scene where Winston has this beautiful dream of the green country. It's a positive image. And this woman that he has fallen in love with, she's walking towards him, and she actually is disrobing. And he wakes up, and he says Shakespeare. That word comes off. He just says Shakespeare. It comes to his lips. It's a dream he has. I have to go back and find the passage for you. But I don't know. I do love Shakespeare, but it's an interesting scene in that book.
Oh, Ophelia, you've been on my mind, girl, since the flood. Oh, Ophelia, heaven help a fool who falls in love.
So, Jill, there's a couple other things I want to talk about. Oh, here's one. You're a woman of many hats. Literally. So, when did you start collecting all those hats, and why?
So, my Lord.
And do you have any
mercy.
favorites?
Well, the first one I got at Hull Street Outlet. That's the Army helmet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite?
That's the first one.
I was going to say that. I think that's your favorite.
Yeah, I've had that my whole career.
You wear it well.
And I would wear it. Sarah Vogt has a funny memory of me walking up and down the hallways at Tucker during SOLs, taking my kids on walks and wearing that helmet. I don't know why. I think it's just basically my goal of not being responsible and focusing on other things to not go crazy as a teacher. I just bring in silly props. And my room is too... I was like, I've got to organize. Man, I left on Friday. I'm like, I'm going to bury myself behind the desk. I've got to get rid of stuff. But
I mean, getting rid's hard.
Sure.
But what a great collection.
Sure.
You're proud of that. You must be proud
I
of that
am.
collection.
And there's some, but I need to, and I've given 2 to Evan Fulton. There were 2 big sombreros. So that made his day. That was the first of the Great Purge.
Yeah.
But actually, Sarah Vogt is going to get the helmet. I am going to bequeath that to her. That's got to go to her. But yeah, just when I see something and it speaks to me, I'm like, oh, I've got to use this in the classroom.
And so how often do you use props in the classroom? Is it fair to just call them props?
To be honest, this year I really haven't used that many. This year's been tough for many reasons, I think.
Well,
and the kids just...
All right, so go back 3 years.
Let's say prior.
Prior.
I'd say, probably weekly I'd bring something in. I mean, lightsabers work well, too. If you pull those out and use them as pointers, the kids enjoy that sort of thing.
Oh, I have a lot of pointers, too. I like that.
So depending on what particular units, like the Odyssey, Odysseus, I've used certain things when I teach that. But they're there for fun and just to kind of entertain, to somehow make a connection. That's not a very good answer, but...
Is it there to entertain you as well?
Oh, absolutely.
Is that first?
I think so.
Thank you for admitting that, because I agree.
Oh, absolutely.
If once I'm entertained, then I'll be a happier person, and that's going to translate,
Sure,
right?
Absolutely. The kids are like, why do you have that? I'm like, why not? Well, like that dumb piece of pizza. That fake piece of pizza, and I got that with Harvey Stone. It was like $1, and I'm like, that looks real. This is great. I got to put it in my room. Why? Don't know. But every day I have a random kid come. They're like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Touch it." And they're like, "That's not real." I'm like, "Yeah, I know." And that's it. No, does it have anything to do with the curriculum? No.
Has school trained us to be too judgmental about ourselves? And that's why we turn things off. I'm throwing it out there, just hit me.
Give me a specific example.
School is so much about right and wrong. So grade driven.
It's grade driven.
That it's a beat down. So when you go, oh, I don't want to do that because I don't know how to do it. I'll do it wrong. And we're talking about scrapbooking, or any craft or any art,
Right.
or I don't want to split the two because we can argue about what's art and what's craft. But people don't want to do it because they're afraid, oh, it's terrible. Well, who's the judge? You judged yourself as terrible. Why are you judging yourself terrible when there really is no judgment to be made? But we grow up with nothing but judgment.
That's true.
Judgment after judgment after judgment.
I think any class in public education system where it is a creative class, or it's I say under the fine arts, art, music, literature, creative writing needs to be very, very open-ended. And I think that comes down to the teacher. I have had many students in creative writing classes who cannot write. They are not strong writers, but they want to try it. And the point is if you want to try it, you'll be successful at it. The successful student is one who writes a draft and you pick one strong thing and let's expand on that. And then take a little bit more time and add to it. And so if your third draft is an improvement from the first, then that's a win. But I've had students who truly struggle with metaphorical writing, which is what creative writing is. It's not writing an essay, it's writing to be creative. Students like, I can't think of anything to write. I'm like, well, let's talk about it. Think about this. Show me, don't tell me.
Right.
In writing, creative writing, show me, don't tell me.
So speaking of time, I'm going to wrap this up. I have a little questionnaire, and I ripped it off from James Lipton, the Proust like thing. So here we go. I have some questions, but I've altered it. So here we go. Jill.
Yes.
Jill. The tension is mounting. Jill, what's your favorite word in educational jargon?
Now, do you mean like seriously, I really like it, or in my dark sense of humor, I say I like it, but I hate it?
Whatever.
Paradigm.
Paradigm. Oh, welcome. We got laptops. The paradigm shift.
Paradigm
shift.
shift.
They use that one a lot. And ubiquitous.
Ubiquitous.
Yeah,
that's
I learned
one.
that word that year.
Oh, God.
Okay, so maybe I just answered the second one for you. I don't know. But what's your least favorite educational jargon type word?
I'm drawing a blank. I've got to think about that and cogitate.
Ooh.
I can't think of the word, and it's at the tip of my brain. Can we come back to that one?
We're going to circle back.
Corbin Wright used to always use it all the time. I can't remember what it was.
Okay. All right. It's going to come back.
I can't think of it.
All right. What turns you on, educationally speaking?
I love true collaboration and time to discuss that. And I'm always amazed by watching my peer teachers, which we do not do enough.
No. I don't know.
And that's fallen by the wayside. That needs to be, and of course you don't want to make it a mandatory thing, but there's not enough time for that. Mm-hmm. I remember first coming to Glen Allen, and when I first met the English department at the time was Lane Knuckles, Tim Towsley, Corbin Wright, Taryn Meekins, and then this panel-y chick was hired. That was us. Yeah. And I remember meeting them and being absolutely terrified. I'm like, I am out of my depth. These are young educators. They've gone through this. They've learned these things since I've been in school, since the 80s. These are 20 years later, 15 years later, new ways of teaching, new ways of technology, and feeling out of my depth. But then going in and being able to observe and just watch them and how they make this, how do they connect it to this, is always inspiring. Always inspiring. But not just within English, just to go into another class
I'm with you.
A teacher came in and did World History 1 review before the history SOL retakes. And she came in my room last Thursday during my planning to take these 7 kids and like, all right, now this is what we're going to do. And she said, remember this when this, and her energy was so great.
Yeah.
And I was like, Hammurabi's Code, I remember that. And it was just so exciting to see that being taught or just being reviewed with these kids. But the energy level, people's energy is exciting. You're one of those people.
I got a lot of energy. That's why I drink a lot of coffee. I got to stay up.
What is your coffee brand again? I know that Kathleen Lytle had gotten.
Oh,
it's a special
the Cuban coffee.
Cuban.
Bustelo. Good stuff.
I'm right.
All right, so collaboration. But what turns you off, educationally speaking?
Too many directives from central office. They don't take things off the plates of teachers. There was supposed to be, who was it, 2 superintendents ago, where they said, we're going to take things off the plate. Safe Schools modules.
Please no.
What is it where we have to go through and do, where we're on cycle or off cycle? What is that called? And we have to go to that, and we have to talk about our 2 objectives.
It's called cycling.
Yeah, and no one really knows what's going on, and they sign off. And it used to be, when we were in 20 years ago, an administrator would come in and observe you, and they would look at
the whole period.
Yes, the whole period. They would look at classroom management material. There would be a certain parameters, and it was just what they saw for an hour lesson. How was your management style? What were you doing curriculum-wise? Was there an opening? Was there an ending? Was there a wrap-up? Was there a plan? And I found that much more meaningful than writing these 2, cut and paste these 2 objectives in and evaluate yourself, and then it's signed off. So that's supposed to make it more streamlined, but it's not helpful to anybody.
Yeah. The last time whoever came in briefly, loved the lesson, didn't have the 2 things on the board. It's like, yeah.
Well,
sue me, buddy.
Right. But I mean, just having an administrator come in once a semester and observe a lesson and give you feedback.
Yeah.
Forget about what's on the board. This is what was great, and this is what, but that takes time, and there seems to be no time for that anymore. But that's what we are supposed to be doing.
So central office directives.
Yes. Yes. Destination 2025. What is that? What does that even mean? Okay. And it's just every yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, we're moving on. I got 10 here, so let's go. Let's move
sorry.
Here.
Okay.
What sound or noise do you love during the school day?
One of the things I really like is if the sound of students writing, like the physical sound of paper, or the class is quiet and everyone is on the computer typing.
Nice.
Because they're focused in doing it and thinking.
Nice. Okay, but how about what sound or noise do you hate during the school day?
That's a great question. Well, we all have selective hearing, so I try to filter a lot of things out. I don't know if it's a particular sound. I don't know, the bell, the intercom going on, or the bell when I'm trying to make a point, or someone breaking in on the intercom.
Do you worry that it's a lockdown thing when somebody comes on the intercom and you're not expecting it? That's what hits me. My first thought is major catastrophe.
No.
It scares the crap out of me.
I've always done pretty well with that, without panicking or none of that sort of thing.
Another reason I need to stop. Fear. I mean, that's legitimate fear I have. When it's like, oh crap.
Yes.
Ugh.
Well, and remember when it happened 7 years ago or whenever, and it was a lockdown, and so I did what you told me to do, which is we're still teaching.
Yeah.
But that wasn't handled the best way. I think But, getting, God forbid, when, how do you, I don't know.
Yeah. So, here's a fun one that I'm excited to hear what you might say. Specifically you. What's your favorite curse word that you would use in the classroom? Or naughty word?
It's a combination. Mm-hmm. But it's not politically correct. Well, none of them are. I don't know. I would say...
they're all bad. But you say it anyway.
I mean...
Should we bleep it?
Yeah, probably.
All right, because I've been looking forward to a bleep moment.
Yeah.
I'm going to bleep something. All right, we're going to go with that.
Well, sometimes some like rock eaters, paste eaters.
Mm-hmm.
I'll
I
refer to some of them as a 2-watt bulb. I got a lot of 2-watt bulbs sometimes. I'm trying to up the wattage a little bit.
As I would say to other educators, don't curse in the classroom. You can't do it. Other people might. You can't. And I don't even know you. Because, basically, but some personalities. You have a unique personality.
I have used inappropriate words before, and then I've apologized. I mean, I've said stop acting like an ass or a jackass, and they get upset. Let's talk about the definition of what that is. Yeah. A jackass is a cross between a mule and a donkey.
Right.
Stop it.
Yeah.
But yes, it's not always appropriate.
Yeah. But again, we're human.
Yes.
And emotions. No, I forgot where I was. Oh. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Well, I still would love to be... I'm fascinated by the ocean. I love marine biology.
You're not going to let it go, are you?
I'd love to be an oceanographer. I mean, I've always wanted to go to the bottom of the ocean, the Mariana Trench.
Aren't we there now?
Just to see. Yes, we are. Metaphorically speaking, we are. Yes.
Neat. That's really cool.
I've always joked about possibly being an assassin, but I'd have to do that from a distance. No, I joke when I say that. Other jobs.
Like Chuck Barris on The Gong Show.
Oh my gosh, that's a good one. I wanted to, in 3rd grade, I told my mom I'm not going to college. I wanted to be a bus driver.
Wow.
I don't know. I think that would be kind of cool.
You'd meet a lot. Speaking.
Yeah, you'd meet a lot of people that would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
it would be different.
I like that. Okay, what profession would you not want to do, no matter what?
Someone who files. A filer, who files, the big... I did that as a temporary job one time.
Really?
I worked at it. It was some law agency. I did it for 3 weeks, and all I got was big folders, and I had to file them in these huge cabinets, and it was so boring. Anything... Accounting. Stuff like that. Spreadsheets and accounting, no. No, thank you. No, I'd rather dig a ditch.
All right. I'd rather dig a ditch.
Yes. Which I'm also doing.
I'm digging a ditch now. Want to hide. All right. So my last question here is, if heaven exists and you would like to hear God say when you arrived at the pearly gates, but because there's separation of church and state, we're going to say students on your retirement day. What would you want your students to say when you arrive on your retirement day?
I came away feeling better about myself, and I enjoyed your class. And I think what Morris said, I felt like you cared about me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about relationships for me.
You are the master.
Well, thank you, but so are you. Takes one to know one.
You're too kind.
Don't mean to sing if it ain't got that swing.
You've been listening to The Art of Teaching. I'm Pete Anderson. Thanks for listening, but it's time to move on to your next class.
When you stop learning from the kids, then you need to get out of education.
We need to get
Green globs, by the way. I want to know what green globs is.
You sure?
Yes.
I don't think we have that much time.